Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner.
And tonight our special guest judge is Matt Menard. He was a Marine counterintelligence agent who had defended our freedom in Iraq and Afghanistan and now serves and protects around Syracuse. And tonight he's going to judge the rounds between the challenger in the red corner, the fourth album by metal giants Metallica, the first one with Jason Newsted, and Justice for All. It faces off against, what else could be the champion against mighty Metallica? In the blue corner, Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones.
Ooh, that is heavy.
For our pre-fight analysis, we go to Richard Lackey. Richard, what do you say?
This week's album fight is a battle between two bands that had at one point in each of their careers been considered the greatest working band in the world. We've used words like titans before, and it definitely applies here to these two. So what are we looking at? Up first is the Rolling Stones' 1969 release, Let It Bleed. It marks the 8th British and 10th U.S. studio album for the band. Don't ask me what the hell that means, it's just a little piece of trivia to put in your pockets for later. It's a continuation of the band's exploring their more blues-inspired sound, and the album has bookends with what I think are probably their two best, or at least my favorite, Rolling Stones songs, in Gimme Shelter and You Can't Always Get What You Want. And having two songs like that bookend an album makes it very, very tough to beat. It's up against Metallica's 1988 offering and Justice for All. It's the band's fourth full-length studio album and the first without legendary bassist Cliff Burton, and the first with Jason Newsted in his place. This is all but considered a concept album, as it contains themes of political injustice through the lens of war and nuclear proliferation. It's also the album that brought the band out of a very niche thrash metal fan base and into the view of more mainstream audiences when the band finally decided to do their first music video for One. Both the video and song are masterpieces. Thematically and musically, this album is top-notch, but it is hurt a little bit by some who don't care for the mix. And I'll admit I never really noticed it until it was pointed out to me, and now it's kind of one of those things that I always hear. While not a game changer, it does hurt it compared to like a true masterwork like Master of Puppets. So this fight is a tough one for me. So I'm glad I have the numbers. And what did the numbers say? Well, this is going to be a barn burner, people. Looking at the more popularity-related numbers, and they point to a 5-4 win for Metallica. Looking at the critical numbers, and they point to a 5-4 win for the Rolling Stones. If Metallica wins, it will be because it has it's a coherent album with consistently good songs throughout. If the Stones win, it will be because the highs are so high that they outweigh the consistency of And Justice for All. So personally, I predict Metallica 5 rounds to 4 because I think the middle rounds will belong to Metallica. I think we'll more than likely see some fierce debate between the judges, and my prediction there is they're going to be split 2-1 this week. That's all for the numbers, and for my predictions, back to you.
All right, Richard, well...
Yeah, the system. It's evolving.
Yes, the system evolves.
Patent pending.
Yeah, we're going to have to get that thing active. All right, well, let's jump right in. Matt, if you'll take round one, it's Gimme Shelter versus Blackened. Well, how'd you score it?
Right off the bat, how did I score it, or what did I think of the song?
Well, go for either one. Whichever one you think is going to serve dramatic effect.
I need a drum roll. Do we get that soundbite?
Okay.
All right.
We'll pipe one in.
I did 10-9, Gimme Shelter, Blackened.
Okay. How'd you reach that conclusion?
You got Gimme Shelter. I mean, it's got your foot tapping, you know. It's one of those songs, you hear that, you start tapping your feet. It's very iconic. you start thinking about the problem highlights the Vietnam War children. That's kind of what the song encompasses at the time. I should have caveated this, but I'm a huge metal fan. So this is a very yes,
you were
very
conflicted.
interesting dichotomy for me. So you look at Blackened, it's apocalyptic. She pretty much talks about the world ending. And it's one of the songs, I think it's the only song on the album credited to, actually, you just said Jason Newsted, like he was new to the band. He actually wrote that one. I really like the song. I like the intensity. I love the guitar layering. But again, I can't get past the Gimme Shelter did it for me. You know, when I'm listening to that song, it stays in my mind.
That song's kind of woven into our fabric.
Yeah, actually, that's an excellent way to put it. It is. I'm probably going to use the word iconic a lot tonight. And that, I mean, given the Stones, it's just their prestige. They are
icons.
You can't.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I had to give it to the Stones in this one because of pure legend status, and that's one of their, one of the go-to songs for the Stones. Not being too familiar with the lesser-known songs of them, this is one I actually already knew and I was familiar with. Being the metal fan, though, I still gave Metallica a 9.
All right, Pete?
Yeah, I went the same way. This Gimme Shelter, here's the thing with this song. It doesn't even belong to the Stones anymore. It belongs to everybody. It's so iconic. It nails down that era. Yep. And then if I was going to make a couple of notes, just the shimmering guitar, that, just that lick, and then the cool percussion, that rick. I love that sound. And, of course, maracas. Anytime you bring maracas into a rock and roll song. And I really like the way that Keith's solo was really lyrical. It was almost like a second voice in the song. It's one of the greatest songs that the Stones ever created, and I don't see how Blackened can beat it. Look, here's the thing that I realized about Injustice for All. The mix is terrible. And I checked it with Wes Maybe, and he said, yes, the mix is terrible. It drives him crazy. And that's what he does for a living. So I get it where, it's the apocalypse. There's a ton of punk rock. There's a ton of Sabbath in this. It's absolutely Metallica, but it's just nothing compared to Gimme Shelter. This is 10-9 Stones all the way.
Okay. I scored at 10-9 Stones too, but here's why I was so conflicted about it as Matt was I am a big fan of Jason Newsted.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Brad Gillis. I'm a fan of the guy who's not afraid to say, I'm going to step into some big-ass shoes. Those shoes need filling. The world needs those shoes filled. We're in the middle of a tour. Give me the ball. And Jason Newsted, for the sheer size of his balls,
for sure,
gets really, to replace Cliff Burton, come on. Yeah. And he said, not only am I going to do this as ably as I can, I'm not going to betray the memory and the tribute to Cliff Burton, and I'm going to write a song that's going to lead off the first album that I play on. And that's awesome. And I want to extend as much praise and as much, I love Jason Newsted and I love Metallica. Blackened, not only is it a great album opener, it's one of the great double bass drumming songs ever. I love Lars Ulrich too, and I like the movements that make it a classic Metallica song. But classic Stones, like Gimme Shelter, Pete, to say that song belongs to the universe now, doesn't belong to the Stones anymore, that's really what it is. Classic Stones beats classic anything. And this is a great song. Blackened is a great song running up against the ocean. And so you can't really, but they still earned a 9. They still didn't get knocked down.
Absolutely. They stood their ground.
Yeah. Round 2 is Love in Vain versus Injustice for All. How'd you score it, Pete?
Well, look, I looked at Injustice for All, and I said, okay, let's just bring it heavy again. Let's see what happens, right? You ran into a monster round in the first round, so what do we have? We have, my teen self is now being recognized. I feel it, I'm looking for my black jeans. I'm trying to get my neck loose so I can bang my head a little bit. And if you like metal, this is a song that you play to show off to your friends that maybe don't quite get it. Maybe they're punk rock guys. And you're like, this is what you have to understand. This is not an entry song. This is like where I need you to be up here. And I think it's great. Love in Vain is this is a contrast in styles between the two bands. You got young Mick selling the blues and the guitar is right there with them. But it's also a cover of Robert Johnson. And as much as I love covering Robert Johnson and giving that guy all the credit and everything, because all rock and roll is the progeny of Robert Johnson, all of it, including Metallica. This is a cover against an original piece, and there's just not enough separation with Love in Vain from And Justice for All. So I've got this round, Metallica 10-9.
Okay, I didn't score it that same way. I mean, I came up with the exact same score, but I didn't dock Love in Vain for being a cover. The Stones have always been wide open about the fact that they played some old blues and packaged it up to sell back to the Americans who forgot it had been an American art form to begin with. So this is that concept at its best, and it's a pretty good cover. And I think that for them to have pulled it off this well, I enjoy it a lot. And Justice for All is a melodic beauty. It's just like, it's a raven-haired, dark-eyed girl who's going to do nasty things to you. And, it starts off almost like a Stones song. And one of the things I really liked about comparing these two songs was that factor. I mean, the beginning of And Justice for All, to me, gives the indication of the Stones' influence, which, as you pointed out, is really Robert Johnson's influence. But it's updated by some rough and tumble kids who wanted to take Mick Jagger's swag to the next level, and they did. And they did it with black leather pants on, God damn it. One of my favorite Metallica songs. I scored a 10-9. What did you do, Matt?
I went 10-9, Metallica, Rolling Stones, and this is why. Love in Vain, great. Again, I agree, it's a good cover, but it is a cover. So originality, I kind of took off for that. It's a bluesy song. I love the blues. I love the bass lines in there. I don't want to say it falls flat to me, but it's very basic. And on its own, on its face, that's great. And Justice for All, aside from being probably a little long on the long side, I think it's just over 9 minutes long. To echo you, I think it's very melodic. It gets in your head. The interludes, the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics mean something. To me, there's more substance in A Justice for All versus Love in Vain. You follow what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think I did that a lot in this album fight here. It definitely opened my eyes to looking at music a different way. So yeah, it is.
It's fun, huh?
You get into it and you kind of go back and forth. Like, I really love this song and I love the blues, but what am I going to base the song on? And off of substance, I did 10-9 Metallica.
Yeah, substance wins a lot of rounds.
That's
it
right.
Sneaks it,
Mm-hmm. When it's thick, it's overwhelming. Round 3 was Country Honk versus Eye of the Beholder. Now, Honky Tonk Woman is a tune from the Great American Songbook, and Country Honk is the slice of prairie Americana with womanly hips that bore it. You can smell the shine and fiddle varnish, and the hayseed is undeniable. Eye of the Beholder's a formidable song, and one of Metallica's melodic compositions that I really enjoy, but interestingly, it's one of the songs that when I hear Lars play it today, I like his playing even better. I think his playing has seasoned beautifully. Maybe my ears are getting just as old as his are, but I just feel like his feel on Eye of the Beholder when it was originally recorded it seems a little young compared to how he plays it now. It's just he seems to be more settled. He seems to be more driving of the groove in a way that's uniquely his, and I really like the song, and I like the way he plays it, but I like the way he plays it better now. He still retains the chops, but his pocket's gotten deeper. Comparatively, though, Country Honk has roots, and it wins the arm wrestling match with an extra grip of chaw spit. So
yeah,
I went 10-9 Country Honk. Matt, what'd you do?
I went the other way on this one, and this was a hard one for me because Country Honk, again, it's catchy. First thing that pops in my mind is Homer's Odyssey, but it's all about the ladies. I don't know if that resonated with you guys, but I kind of got that vibe from it. Obviously, an acoustic staple among guitar players. Pete, you probably know how to play this song, or I played it at some point.
Next to a campfire, trying to impress a girl.
Trying to impress the ladies, right? It's that.
Practice for hours and hours in my chew.
And you played it good, and she sat on your face.
Mm-hmm. And I started honking.
Exactly. Conversely, Eye of the Beholder. I don't know if you guys got this. Did anybody hear a Christmas song in the back of your mind listening to the song and look?
No.
Yeah, that escaped me, man.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to try that out.
Lyrically, do you hear what I hear? I don't know why that pops in my head, and it's like almost like I'm hearing two songs at the same time. But I love the variety of rhythms in the song. There's a lot of shifts melodically there, and it goes back and forth, but it goes well. I know you said it didn't mix well, but musically, to me, it sounds. Maybe it's just the way my brain is wired, but it sounds superior to me. I also like to. I feel the lyrically, it's in depth. It's talking about oppression, and it I don't know, that strikes a chord with me. So again, I did the 10-9 Metallica this round, and this was a hard one for me because again, who doesn't like a song all about the ladies? So
that's right. Pete, how'd you do round 3?
So Country Honk for me is. I love the line, just can't seem to drink you off my mind. That's just a brilliant lyric.
Yeah.
And I love, you talked about the down home country feel, the fiddle playing of, and he's credited for fiddle, not violin.
That's a different instrument.
Byron Berline and how he approaches that. I thought that was all fantastic. The one thing that I really thought didn't serve the song was them using the honk and the car horn. I thought, that's British guys not understanding what a honky tonk is. Like, it's got nothing to do with the fucking car horn. Nice try, Brits, but that time you did not sell back to us what we are. And that ultimately decided the round for me. Like you said, Matt, I love oppression too, and this song's all about that. And I think the song is complex. I'm making a joke about oppression. I know if you don't like it, but
the only thing I like more than oppression is daddy issues.
Daddy issues and oppression get me laid a lot. But I hate the mix. God, I wish these guys would have spent some money on the mix. I used to listen to Metallica in my buddy's room, and he had like the black blanket on the wall with like Led Zeppelin and the Police and that kind of thing. And it was super hot because no one had AC, and we would listen to this. He got me kind of into the Metallica thing early on, and it just brought back memories of that, and just the complexity of the songwriting in this song, I think, works in this case. Sometimes Metallica is overindulgent in that vein, but not here. Here it's Metallica 10-9.
Pete is 3/4 of the way deaf and farting all the time, and could still hear that the mix was funky.
Yeah,
well,
that's how bad it was.
Yeah. So
you know the backstory on
what's that?
Right? For Fleming Rasmussen, he wasn't part of it. This is one where the band took over and kind of tried to do it themselves.
Okay.
Bad decision.
That makes plenty of sense. Yeah. That makes so much sense.
He was absent, and I want to say I saw it somewhere on a documentary, but he talks about how there was a little back and forth between him and the band as a producer, and he was completely shut off from the mixing process. So this is what you get when you get metalheads managing their own stuff, you can shred that guitar, but can you mix that track? And I think this is kind of a testament to that. The answer is no.
Okay. Well, let's move on to round 4. Matt, lead us off. Live With Me versus One.
This one right here, I'm going to say it was a hard 10-9 for me, Metallica. One, iconic song. Growing up, for me, it was one of those benchmarks of the guitar. You sit there, I nailed this riff. Again, it presses the ladies. The hardest part for me with One was getting the music video out of my mind. And I think this is kind of like what I ran into a lot with this process was Metallica came out around the time, MTV. So there's music videos and imagery associated with these songs. And for me, not so much with the Stones. So I had to get the whole imagery of the Metallica out of my mind and what it for me. And obviously, with the lyrics are pretty blatant. You know, the guy's trapped inside his body. I cannot live and I cannot die. And we all know it's a reference to the Johnny, get your what's it got? His gun. So it's a reference to that. But you can translate the helplessness in those lyrics to any of his life. So any moment that you're down in your life, you can be like, wow, I really relate to this song. The imagery wasn't there for me, the Stones, so I kind of came up with my own. And Live With Me, it's a very syncopated track off the album. I like that. They shift the rhythms very well. And to me, it was kind of a comical song. The way, in a nutshell, the way it kind of comes across to me is like Mick Jagger's like a rich dude in a commune. So, you know, he wants the ladies to live with him, but he's got chauffeurs and maids and servants. Yeah, so, again, with one being as iconic it is, and this is, again, Pete told me there's probably going to be a little bias that might bleed through. This is a biased song for me. It's a hard 10-9 for me, Metallica.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business, or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69.
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
All right, Pete.
Yeah, Live With Me is the song's over. Just the other day they recorded it 49 years ago. So it's a 50-year-old song, and it's still complex. It's still got tons of talented performance. Leon Russell, and it's just such a great song. I like that the London Bach Orchestra or choir refused to be credited on it and another song that we'll talk about later in the album. But it's funny that this song, because they were going to live out of wedlock, was controversial, and that's just rock and roll as hell. Being able to say, yeah, we're going to live together and shack up. And anybody who makes shacking up cool and safe to do, thank you. So thank you, Rolling Stones, for doing that for us. And it's a hell of a song with a hell of a theme. But for me, one is what I call a perfect song. There's nothing to add. There's nothing to change. It's just a great song. I love the delicate motif that Kurt Emmett puts in there. And then it's almost like the rest of the band takes a crayon sideways and just does those broad strokes. It doesn't really color everything, but it just goes right over the top of the beauty of the early stuff that was going on with the guitars. And it's just such a great song. I think the bass working with the guitars is fantastic. And when James sings, he only adds to it. So just everything, the drums and the guitars working in tandem during the bridge, all of that. They're great ideas. And it works fantastic, and there's nothing to say about one except for thank you. Great job, fellas. 10-9 Metallica.
Okay, well, one for me was when Lars pulled back and played a halftime groove like Levon Helm, and I really dug that about him. He did a great job. The guitar part is so mature and good, and this, to me, seemed like the student stepping up to the teacher with advanced precision, sharpness, superior leg strength. He's faster, he's younger.
Yes.
And then the teacher is crafty and pulling out old tricks that you learn from jumping railroad cars. It's greasy rock and roll, and I scored at 10-9 Live With Me.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It was a narrow, and
the whole fight was narrow like that.
Matt, I couldn't get the video out of my head of one, and I was disturbed by that video, so I don't think it worked in their favor that time. It really disturbed me. I just liked the feel good chord structure and the syncopation that Matt pointed out in Live With Me. It just made me feel good, and so that's why I leaned that direction.
And it's about shacking up.
Well, yeah.
You gotta like that.
Sure, I gotta like that. Hey, bring your easy bake oven. Round 5 is Let It Bleed versus The Shortest Straw. Start us off, Pete.
Well, so when songs get this right, I love when a song is loose and it's not sloppy because that's when it's bad. When it's loose and it's just they're able to kind of create a different feeling because the song's not tight. So the piano's a little too far front in the mix for me. I wouldn't mind it being pulled back a little bit. But I thought they used stereo, and this is an album from the '60s using stereo effectively. I thought that was great. This song feels dangerous, and I think Mick delivers something special with his vocals. He doesn't go to his normal bag of tricks, and I think that is really cool. There's some sex, there's some drugs, there's some tenderness in this thing, and all in all, like however you want to interpret the song, one of the things for sure is saying, like unload it on me. Yeah, there's creaming on and all that kind of stuff, but there's also like if you need a place to unload a burden or unload some emotional, bring it over to me. And there's something beautiful in that, and I love that. The Shortest Straw, I felt like, John, like this song was a little bit funky. Not in terms of Lars's approach in terms of time, but just like the way that the song was put together, and you probably will correct me on that. But I just felt like there was a little bit of a funk element in this song. And they kind of play with time a little bit. But again, more interaction between the guitars and Lars, and I thought that was cool. The bass is kind of just tapping out Morse code, and I like that aspect of it. Just like it won. It's like they got the guitars and the bass to sound kind of like a Matt. I was thinking it sounded like a helicopter almost coming in, and I pictured like a dust-off flight coming in to do a medevac, and I thought that was a cool thing. Of course, that was from one, but we're talking about The Shortest Straw now. Maybe a few too many ideas in this song if I'm going to pick nits, because I really can't decide which song is better. And if Metallica had made the song just a few bars shorter out of each one of the many ideas, they do deliver fantastically complex and high-level songs, but I just think that there's just a few. This is where the producer needed to go, all right, fellas, let's dial it back a little bit. I've got this one, Stones 10-9.
All right. Matt, what do you say?
I agree a lot with what Pete said. There's a lot going on in The Shortest Straw. It's another political song by Metallica. Talking about basically people with different opinions being oppressed or blacklisted. Fun fact, this word taught me the word megalomania, which is somebody who's obsessed with that, and I just thought it was an interesting word to use lyrically. So, who says you can't learn things from metal? I love the drums on it. I love the drums. You definitely hear, again, that Lars, he's younger. He's putting a lot into the album. He's definitely working on his calves on this song, and you can hear that. You can't listen to the drums in the song and not move your head. Rhythmically, it's one of those songs that gets inside you. Again, with the mixing, the bass isn't there. I feel kind of like Newsted got the short end of he got the shortest straw, so to speak. And we'll play on words there on this album. Not his fault, not due to his inability to play, just the inability to mix the track right. Let It Bleed, again, to mirror what Pete said. There's a lot of the '60s love, sex, sexual innuendo in the song. I love I'm a piano guy too. I love the piano. I love it when you can incorporate classical instruments into modern songs. The song just really stuck with me and resonated as the epitome of a good, musically and lyrically, a good '60s song. So I went the other way on this one. I did 10-8 Stones.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to. As much as I like The Shortest Straw, I gave it an 8.
Okay, well, I didn't give it an 8, but I did give the round to the Rolling Stones. We all do need somebody we can lean on. It's hard for me to separate myself from the emotional attachment. We do have our biases, and I'm acknowledging mine on this song because this is the Stones providing the building blocks for our generation to understand what music is supposed to sound like. And thankfully, when we have that kind of understanding, if we're lucky, our generation produces the right circumstances for Metallica to emerge. But I got to acknowledge that The Shortest Straw has a really cool guitar solo with the dive bombing and shit, and the bass dropping out, and the drums driving through. I really dig that. I really love the arrangement, too. The second payoff of the solo on the ascending scale, that was really something I I got a kick out of back then and still do now. Still Let It Bleed won out for me by just a narrow margin. Round 6 is Midnight Rambler versus Harvester of Sorrow. Blues with a happy harp and a carefree spirit, and a Charlie Watts playing a shuffle that turns into a smoking locomotive, and Keith Richards with a bottleneck slide, Mick Jagger chugging along and mumbling to the ladies while he's doing his fucking rooster walk. And then you break it back down and the drums just punctuate. God damn it.
Yeah.
You know, Harvester of Sorrow is cool, but you could put King Kong in fucking leather pants and teach him to play Eruption, and it wouldn't be as cool as Midnight Rambler. It's my favorite song on Let It Bleed, and I had it 10-9. How'd you score, Pete?
Yeah, for me, Harvester of Sorrow, look, the songs are beginning to wear on me. Anger, Misery, Repeat. And it's just, like, I get it. You guys are dark and everything and heavy, but at some point, can we find a little love? Can you guys go find a hunk of puss or something so you've got something to talk about? You know, just the song is struggling to stand out from the album, partly because they haven't put a lot of new ideas in. And also, the mix is terrible in this album, Matt. It just happens again and again. And I thought to myself, Jesus, why would they release this? Why would they listen to this and go, that's what we want for the rest of all time? This is a great album.
I don't disagree with you.
Think about how much better. Yeah, I mean, it's like you made it sound like shit. You made Lars sound bad. You can barely hear the bass if it's in the song at all. And it's just such a shame because Harvester of Sorrow is a heavy song. It does deliver a lot, but just they've crippled themselves. Like I don't know. I don't understand the decision making there. Whereas, like John said, Midnight Rambler, I love Mick's work on this. I love his singing. I love his harmonica playing. And the song is long, maybe a little self-indulgent, but I also love how Jones and Richards play the guitar and their experiment with one being in one channel and the other being on the other. So you have like this stereo approach to lead guitars. I think it's fantastic. Some people don't like the lyrics because it celebrates rape and murder. I think you're reading too much into that. Look, this is the Rolling Stones. This is what they do, and they do it well. This for me is 10-9 Rolling Stones.
Matt?
I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. I did 10-9 Rolling Stones as well. I actually, despite the darkness associated with the Midnight Rambler, I'll play on the Boston Strangler. I like that. I like that they decided to take something that would otherwise be negative and kind of turn it into a real, I want to say classy tune. I don't know if that fits. But the other thing for the song that really shined through for me was that 60s guitar, that Telecaster, which I assume might be through a Marshall amp, has that buzz to it that just kind of, you feel that. Like, man, when you hear electric guitar and you think about the history of electric guitar, you feel that. I feel my first guitar was a Telecaster, and this song is just like, yes, that's how you play the guitar. You don't have to play it hard and fast. Again, as much as I like the hard and fast, it's these groove tunes. You can't get them out of your head. Also,
sometimes you find a girl with really long hair and you got
exactly, and that's what they're doing here. I got a little bit of.
This is Pete getting a hunk of puss.
Real slow.
A hunk of it.
And again, I feel Pete on this one with Harvester of Sorrow. It does sound, I don't want to say mechanical or similar. A lot of the songs on Injustice for All are quite similar.
By now, too.
Yeah,
exactly. At this point in the album.
Yeah, you'll see a shift here coming up in my the way I went with this. But it's a dark song about, this guy. This is what I get from the song. You had a shitty childhood and you grew up and killed your family. You bottle it up and there's you go. And as far as a metal song goes and what metalheads might be looking for, like they're like, fuck yeah, this is fuck yeah. But you know what I mean?
I got a lot of zits. I need a hunk of puss.
Again, I wish someone besides me would touch my dick.
You can't get past the Midnight Rambler. Again, they took something dark and they made it beautiful. It's like a nursery rhyme. Mary, Mary, quite contrary.
Yeah.
It's a nursery rhyme for children, but it's based on Queen Mary, who killed hundreds of people. You sing it to kids, right? So again, 10-9 Rolling Stones.
Wow. All right, well, keep it rolling. How'd you score round 7? You Got the Silver versus the Frayed Ends of Sanity.
You Got the Silver. This one, I scored. This was a hard one for me. I went 9-8. And I'm not
10
sure
point. 10-point must.
Sorry. Then it would be a 10-9.
Okay.
You Got the Silver for me. Again, it was one of those songs that musically almost sounded like a filler to the album. The biggest thing that stood out to me about the song I liked was Keith Richards. Everybody says he can't sing. This song proves that he can. I felt, and I think there's a lot of emotion tied to the song because it's about his then girlfriend. I think he ended up marrying her. Annette was her name. But there's a lot of emotion tied to the song there. Frayed Ends of Sanity. I can't get past that, the intro. It sounds like the Wizard of Oz, the OEO.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Once you hear that, it's like, shit, I can't get that out of my head. All I see is flying monkeys and
with their little hats on.
Yeah, I can't get past that. Lars has a lot of potential. He shows that on this album. The Frayed Ends of Sanity, I get the guy is paranoid. I'm not really sure. The lyrics were all over the place. It's supposed to be... I researched it. It's supposed to be about the singer who's paranoid about his band. To me, it sounds like a singer that kind of ran out of how to throw a song together. So lyrically, it's all over the place. A lot of background noise. And again, like I said, Lars, he shined through a lot on this album, but on this song, it felt just very basic to me. So, again, I got to go 10-9. You Got the Silver with the Stones.
Okay. Pete, how'd you score it?
Yeah, I can't say I saw it differently. The Frayed Ends of Sanity. Jesus, James, are we again going to score to the same well? Are you the crazy rage thing? I get it. You're upset. Maybe try to find a chick to squeeze on and crush on a little bit. Maybe leave your friends alone and go make out like under the bleachers or something. Jesus fucking Christ. Look, these guys are incredible. They play fantastic, and that's what we always say. These guys are in the ring because we love them. But I have no idea what the fuck Lars is doing on the drums on this song. I couldn't figure out what was going on. He's got this, it's cliche, he's got these speed fills, and, this doesn't hold up to what the Stones are about to deliver. And even if it isn't great, I think, and I like you said, I like Keith Richards' version a little better than Mick's version of this. Brian Jones is on this recording because I could have swore that guy was dead at this point, but they caught him one more time. And this song is sweet. It's been covered a lot, so that says something. And I think the lyrics are great, the melody's great, and compared to against Frayed Ends of Sanity, I think Metallica is lucky I didn't give them a 10-8. This is 10-9 Stones.
Wow. Well, I like the feel of Frayed Ends. I like the scheme of dropping the last beat off of a measure to pull it back. Lars does it in a way that I hear what you're saying with the fills and the, but that's Lars Ulrich.
Yeah.
And this was him being him in a way that, it didn't, at this point in the album, I think the rhythmic schemes that they used were different enough from the last few songs that it woke me back up. Whereas You Got the Silver, it's filler. I don't like all of the times that the song's has been done and I think my biggest problem with You Got the Silver was that I listened to it right after Midnight Rambler. And Midnight Rambler is so good, and when I was doing my leapfrog, I went from Midnight Rambler right into You Got the Silver. And
there's a clear difference there.
Yeah,
You're right.
It shut off my senses for it. So I scored a 10-9 Frayed Ends of Sanity. And I hear what you guys are both saying. I mean, I hear it. But I couldn't get past You Got the Silver being so just flat after Midnight Rambler.
Yeah, I found that when you're going through the songs, when I was going through the Stones album, I had to go back and forth because if I go straight through the album,
what I typically do is I'll listen to track 1, and then I'll listen to track 1 and track 2, and then I'll go back across and listen to track 2 and track 3, and then I'll go back across. So when I'm doing my snaking back and forth, sometimes I run into a situation where I've got You Got the Silver right after Midnight Rambler, and in this case it fell flat because of that.
There's definitely a thing where you can hear the band get it right, and then when they more when they don't get it right. You're like, oh, this one isn't as good as the other ones.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Yeah,
So
that's for sure.
anyway, did we?
It's
So we all did round 7.
Yep.
Okay. Round 8 is Monkey Man versus Live to Die. Pete?
Here in round 8, we've got, and I know this was a thing back then, like we have to have an instrumental track, but first off, fuck you for a 9-minute instrumental track.
Jesus.
And then how about a new idea? I mean, it's just the same fucking thing.
You know what this instrumental song is? It's a Metallica song.
Yeah, without
With
words.
the mic turned off.
Yeah, like did James go out and take a shit?
This is Hetfield having a smoke.
Yeah, and look,
And somebody handed him a Virginia Slim 120.
yeah, he's in the back room working on the pocket pussy. He's like, I gotta be right back. I'm all bound up over here.
I'm going to get a hunk pocket puss.
What the fuck does the 80s pocket pussy look like?
Yeah, it looks like the Unknown Comic.
Oh man, so yeah, look, we're hard on instrumentals. I think rightfully so, and this is exactly why. Because you put something together, like you said, John. This should have just been a regular song. Throw some lyrics about how mad you are and about how the world is over. Pull out some drudgery. Anyhow, Monkey Man is silly. It's goofy. This is a jaunty fighter, like knowing they're in control of the fight. And so the Stones come in and they have many tools. Metallica brought a chop saw to every song. They make scrambled eggs with a chop saw. They'll make a cake with a chop saw. They make every fucking thing with a chop saw. Jesus Christ, enough with the chop saw, Metallica. I have to give this to the Stones 10-9 because they've got more tools and they brought a real song.
Wow. Okay, well, I'll tell you, this was not my favorite by either band. So these are the deep tracks. We're well into the weeds of the album now. The Stones show off some good rhythms between the guitars, which are so pronounced, and I really dug that about it. To Live is to Die would have benefited from lyrics about anything. Lyrics about the 80s pocket pussy.
Yes.
I have a friend who bought a pocket
like I need to
pussy
write
so
that
he
song.
could practice eating it. Let's just ruminate on that for a minute while we're bored with round 8.
So,
He
gotta get my
bought
tongue
it
in shape.
to eat it.
so how do you get the feedback from that thing?
I think it's just like doing push-ups. You're just working on muscle memory and endurance.
Right, yeah. Trying to build up that one. It's like the tongue version of the tricep.
Yeah.
That one muscle underneath, I guess.
I could do 100 now.
But I scored it 10-9 Stones. How did you score it, Matt?
This one, for me, this is probably... I didn't have that much difficulty at all reading this one, honestly. Again, with the instrumental, I agree. Metallica's trying to do some classical / let's turn on the bandsaw. Let's go back to some classical. The only thing I appreciate, really, truly about To Live Is to Die is it's a tribute to Cliff Burton. And that part resonated with me. Okay, I guess it's Metallica's way of being somber and taking a quiet approach, so to speak, to his memory. I don't know if you guys knew this, but most of the riffs from To Live Is to Die come from Cliff Burton's unreleased tracks. So stuff that he had recorded prior to his death. Now they didn't use the originals on the album. What they actually had was Newsted learned them and he played them on the album. The melting of all that music together was mostly from Cliff Burton's unreleased tracks that he had recorded with Metallica. So this is them paying homage to, or homage, depending where you come from.
Well, you're French, so you should say homage.
Homage.
Yes.
So I appreciate that. I appreciate that hey, you know what? It's 2 years after the fact that we lost one of our members. Let's pay him tribute. Now, flip back to, the fact it's just an instrumental. They could have used some words. Hey, talk about how great the guy was or something. You know what I mean? Don't go out and fuck your pocket pussy. Talk about how great Cliff was. Monkey Man. Monkey Man, I love this song. Probably my favorite song on the album. This song makes me want to snap my fingers, dress up in a suit, and drink Cosmos. I don't know what that says about me, but that's what I get from Monkey Man. I love the song. I couldn't get past Goodfellas. I don't know if that happened to you guys. that cocaine drives the scene and they go nuts. It's, I mean, obviously it's an iconic movie tied to an iconic song. It's in my head. I can't say enough good things about Monkey Man. I love it. It's probably it is my favorite song on the album. So a hard 10-9 Rolling Stones.
All right. Round 9. You can't always get what you want versus Dyer's Eve. Once again, classic Stones. You can't dethrone the Stones. Depth of soulful cool no matter how fast you can play or how much you rehearse the band. And with Dyer's Eve, they clearly can play fast and they rehearse like motherfuckers. You know, my ears wanted a deeply strong but less aggressive ending to Injustice for All. Like I wanted solid closure, that this song had a different approach. And so I'm just going to have to go with the tried and true classic, You Can't Always Get What You Want, 10-9 Stones. How'd you score it, Pete?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I thought that the album was going to close out strong, and I think the Stones really, really do a great job. One of their iconic classic songs. I mean, what else could you do with this thing? This is a great song and a strong, strong closeout. And once again, maracas. I love that. The piano, the choir is great. Once again, not credited by their insistence because they didn't want to be associated with it. And it's kind of funny that the Stones, they're like, we need to find someone to sing this part. Hey, the Bach choir's in town, let's get those guys. And so they came in, and that choir makes that song really, really jump. And at this point for me, the fight is essentially over on my card. So Dyer's Eve comes in, and you're like, all right, well, we're going to show you how fast we can go. We're going to have Hammett playing percussively, and Lars is going to go fast right there with him, and it's faster, and it's faster, and it's faster. It's a bunch of angry dudes running around going real, real fast. And for me, they get knocked clean out on their feet. It's 10-8 round Stones.
Wow. All right, Matt, you opened up round 1. We're giving you the last word on round 9. What did you score?
This was probably the hardest one for me. This is where you had to remove that bias. Again, this is with Dyer's Eve. Yes, it's fast, but it shows you the potential of Lars. It shows you that, I don't know if it was the cocaine and the working out, but when you sit there and rehearse, you can bang out those drums. You can get it. You can get that double bass, which I'm a huge fan of. Huge fan of double bass. I had a lot of back and forth on this. You could feel the Dyer's Eve. The reason it struck a chord with me is I think it's the only song you really hear that feels emotion into this. He's invested. He's emotionally invested in this song. You can hear it in his voice. I almost hear like subtle cracking in it because the lyrics mean that much to him. Because it's about his own childhood. And this is his way to vocalize it. Conversely, you Can't Always Get What You Want. Huge classic song by the Stones. Who doesn't know the chorus to You Can't Always Get What You Want? Again, you get the gospel singers coming in there. The lyrics embrace, the 60s culture. It's a lengthy lyrical song. I think it's the most lengthy on the album, comparatively probably to both albums. This one I had to go back and forth with a lot of times. You guys ready for these?
Oh boy! Well, yeah, because you are deciding like which way you went. Let me hear it.
I can see you both on the edge of your seat. I didn't go against the grain on this one. 10-9 Stones.
Wow. Okay, well, we have us a unanimous decision. The Stones pulled this one out. I know they pulled it out by a narrow margin along every round. There was a little bit more separation on my card and on Pete's than there was on yours, Matt, but this was a tough fight, and I'm really happy to say that it was a worthwhile listen in this style because it opened your eyes to the influence and then where the influence carried. And I thought that was cool about it. Matt, thanks for joining us. Thanks for protecting the beautiful folks of upstate New York. And thanks for taking time out from that to do this album fight with us, Pete.
Well, I wanted to see what Richard thought with his post-fight analysis.
They say it takes a real man to admit when he's wrong. So I hope Pete, John, and Matt, you step up and admit that you got this one wrong. Now, in all seriousness, this was a very close fight. My personal card after listening was 86-85 for Metallica. And to be honest, the only reason why it didn't end up being a 4-4-1 tie was I did not like Live in Vain at all. I had that as a knockdown round. While the Stones, historically have always paid homage, as the boys talked about, to American Blues, this felt too much like a parody to me. It didn't sound like they were taking it seriously, and I just found the song very off-putting. But let's get into some of the things and some of the criticism I think I'm gonna talk about. The mix, as I mentioned in the pre-fight, I'm glad Pete pointed it out. I 100% agree. I cannot really argue against that. I don't personally think it takes away from the musicianship or the songwriting, which I think is fantastic on this album. Also, you can never say Metallica song is too long. That's like saying Picasso was a hack because he painted the eyes on one side of the face. That's Metallica, especially old Metallica. You either love it or you don't, but that's Metallica. So you can't take off points for that, in my opinion. Then also the round with Harvester of Sorrow versus Midnight Rambler, saying that Harvester of Sorrow is too dark, and then turning around and praising Midnight Rambler for being about a serial rapist and murderer. Mixed signals to me. Of course it's dark, it's metal, and it's pretty much a concept album, so it's going to be dark all the way through. It's a thematic album. I just don't see that as being something that's critical. And then also, never ever criticize Metallica song for being too fast. That's thrash metal. It's supposed to be fast. Okay, on to the numbers. I'm sorry, I've had my rant. On to the numbers, because then it's where I've got to admit where Metallica came up a little bit short. Fascinating things in the numbers. Rounds 1 through 4, that's 12 possible points with the 3 judges. Really interesting. Rolling Stones only walked away with 4 out of 12 of those points. Looks like it's a runaway for Metallica, who had 8 of the 12 points in rounds 1 through 4, plus a knockdown. So looking at the first 4 rounds, you think, wow, Metallica's going to walk away from it, until you get to rounds 5 through 9. 15 possible points. Rolling Stones pulled 14 of the 15 points. Metallica only got 1. Plus, the Rolling Stones had 2 knockdowns. Basically either negating Metallica's earlier knockdown or negating any point, 2 points that they had gained. So you can see what this fight turned out to be was, I think, a little bit of metal fatigue about halfway through the album. And we're talking about splitting hairs, and Pete and John always point this out, that we're splitting hairs here. But I think probably what happened is thematically the album got a little heavy, especially when you're comparing it song versus song to the kind of light and fun bluesiness of the Stones. And as I pointed out in my pre-fight, nobody's going to win against You Can't Always Get What You Want and Gimme Shelter. Gimme Shelter, my personal favorite Rolling Stones song. And as I've said in the past, the Rolling Stones are one of the 4 greatest bands in the history of rock and roll. So if you got 2 of their greatest songs already on one album, that basically is taking 2 rounds away from the band. So I can't really, I'll jokingly argue about this, and I'll argue more to the death about Metallica, especially old Metallica. But this one was a close one. I think the points, it turned out being 260 points to 250 points with an average of 87 to 83. That's about a 7-round to 2. I think that's a little bit weighted in my personal opinion. I think it's a little bit strong. But again, they're already starting 2 rounds down. It's an uphill battle. It's also a thematic album that can probably get a little bit heavy to casual listening and stuff like that. So, hey, the numbers don't lie. I can't sit there and be too mad about this. The Rolling Stones put out one of their greatest albums up against Metallica's probably 4th best album. They still looked great against it. For personal preferences, I think I liked And Justice for All just a little bit better. Actually, I think it's more of a tie with 1 knockdown. But the numbers are great. They were really interesting this time. Back to Pete and John. That was great. Good job, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the numbers, like Richard was talking about, the kind of our version of the compy box with the combined judges. We have a number of judges that kind of come in unofficially and talk. And we do predominantly find for the Stones, although Richard does like Metallica better. And he had a very, very narrow win that way. So I think it's indicative of how close this fight really was. The score doesn't show you how close this was.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, I scored the Stones down because they used a horn and a honky tonk,
right?
Thing. So,
but you'd have to go to the punch count.
Yeah, right.
You know, you'd have to go to the punch count to go, well, this was a 10-9 round by the Stones, and there were a series of those.
Yeah.
But maybe they squeaked out a few extra punches, and if you're sitting on the opposite side of the ring, you know, or the other side of the table from where I'm scoring, it's like you didn't see those 3 punches.
Yeah, for sure. And there's rounds when you guys said things, and I'm like, God, I wasn't fair. I could have added that in.
Forgot about that one.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thanks, fellas. Great job, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
That was
Hope you'll
fun.
do it again with us.
Absolutely. This gave me a whole new perspective on music.
Terrific. Well, glad we could help. We will definitely do it again. Appreciate you, man.